Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my book review of the book, The Judas Blossom, by Stephen Aryan. This is the first book in the Nightingale and the Falcon trilogy, or I think it's a series, but I picked this up because one of the people at the publisher, Angry Robot Books, contacted me about sending me a copy to review. And I looked at it and I thought, you know what, this looks kind of interesting. So I did accept a review copy, and I didn't really know what to expect with the book. I knew it was fantasy, and that's about all I knew, really. I think I also knew it had historical fiction elements in it. What I didn't know was that it is a great historical fiction book that also has some fantastical elements in it. This book is about the Mongolian conquests. And so you're seeing as the Mongols are stretching their empire, they've conquered the east, and now they're moving ever westward. And so we're following the Mongol leadership like Hulagu Khan, who is moving his army into Persia, and he's about to go into Israel and maybe even beyond. And so you're following him doing all these big epic conquests. And then you're also seeing the people around him who absolutely hate him. You have one of his wives who hates him. You have one of his sons who hates him because of all the terrible stuff he does to his son. You have his the people that he conquers. You follow them, and so it's basically Hulagu is the Khan who's doing all the conquesting, and he's like the focal point of the book, and everyone around him kind of hates him, and so it's all kind of like a who's going to end up killing Hulagu, and it's such an interesting book, and it has all these great historical fiction elements to it. There is a twinge of fantasy in one of the characters' stories, but it's very light, and also it's a very soft magic system. It's incredibly just simple, and I loved that about the book, because the focus was the political storyline, the conquests, the characters who hate Hulagu. It was all about that. The storyline is not about the hard magic system stuff. So if you're wanting that, that's not what you're getting here. You're getting a big political action book, and there's a lot of action in this book. There's a lot of fighting and a lot of conquest stuff, and I loved all of it. Hulagu's storyline was great. His son Temujin had a great storyline. I thought that Kaivan, who also is like a Persian soldier who ends up becoming one of Hulagu's advisors after the Persians are conquered by Hulagu, he was great. All the side characters were great. I enjoyed Kokachin, who is one of the wives of Hulagu, but her story was like the least interesting to me because I didn't really like where Stephen Aryan took her story overall, and that was my one complaint about the book. But other than that, this is a superb book. It's really entertaining. One note on the cover I want to make is that this cover kind of makes it look like a romantasy, just because of the design and the types of things. And now I understand why, because there's some Persian inspirations, some Middle Eastern inspirations on the cover. You see the Mongol soldiers on horseback. You see the designs, so it makes logical sense why the publisher chose this design, because it does fit the story, but it also makes it look like it's going to be this big romantasy book, and really it's not. It is a political historical fiction book that has a little bit of fantasy in it. So I think that it could have chosen I would describe it as it could have chosen a more manly cover, which I think would have helped market it better, but I still think it's an excellent book despite the cover art. So I really enjoyed this. I just had a blast with all the characters. I loved reading all the historical elements, and as a history teacher, it is so hard getting my students to be interested in history. And so to have a book that just actually plays with history and actually gets to show you some what-if elements and gets to show you things from new perspectives, I thought was great. I disagree with some of the worldviews in this book. It's still a great book. And, Stephen Aryan, takes these characters like Hulagu, like Kokachin, these real-life people, and he changes their story a little bit to fit what he needs it to do, but you're still getting the essence of the story, the essence of the Mongolian Empire moving west, and talking about how did the Europeans react to the Mongol Empire's conquests. That's something I've never heard about when I was in school, and I'm a history teacher, so I thought that was fascinating. It made me want to go and look up stuff about that, because I was like, is that real? Is that not real? It's really cool ideas. And so This book, I think, just does an excellent job of making history come alive and also just telling a really fun story. And this is exactly the type of fantasy type book that's like this political storyline that's, it's like Game of Thrones, but it's not quite as R-rated as Game of Thrones. It's kind of like in that vein. But it's historical fiction. It really is, I describe it as a historical fiction that identifies as a fantasy because it has a little bit of fantastical elements, but if you took those out, it would just be a straight up historical fiction. So I loved the book. It is probably tied with The Silver Blood Promise for my favorite fantasy read of the year. I don't know which one's going to win out over time. I think I need a little bit of time to give it legacy, but I loved both books. They're both very different books, but I loved them both. And this is just a superb fantasy book. I cannot wait to read the second book, which I believe is called The Red-Timmed Tide or something, but I'm super excited to read that. I loved this. This jolted me out of my reading slump, and I've just been boom, 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 reading so much ever since. So if you've read The Judas Blossom, let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.